It's finally May and I just love this time of year. We have had quite a cold spring in Sweden. We have had cold weather, lots of rain, and now we have this lovely, it's almost like summer, but it's quite cold in night and sometimes even in the days. But as you can see, things are growing. And today in this vlog I would like to give you a tour in not the whole garden, but in the areas where I grow vegetables and flowers, and also the greenhouses. In April you had a look in my big polytunnel, but today I will show you like all the spaces. And now we stand in my, it's like a perennial garden. And this is an area that I created the year before last year, so 2019. And I was so frustrated then because a while ago I grew lots of perennial flowers in my garden. But when we had, well, that many kids, you know, I didn't have time to take care of things. So I started to dig things up and nearly throw them away, give them away. But in 2019 and 20, I got back to this feeling. I want to surround myself with flowers. And I love the perennial plants that comes back year after year. So I then decided that why not put them in like rows in classical garden beds that I can manage, because I'm very used to that kind of concept from the vegetable garden. So then I collected plants and I put them in rows. And in last fall I also planted lots of tulips in the outer spaces of the garden beds. So I have one bed only with peonies and some lilies and asparagus. And then there are plants just mixed all over the space. I don't have any idea about how this is going to look. But I am very excited that I finally have a place for perennial flowers. And I have had so many tulips this year. It's the first time I grow like cut flower tulips, and I am really excited. These were really bad. The parrot tulips. I have some damages from like slugs. In this place, as with the rest of the garden, I am fighting them as good as I can, and I hope it will like be an okay problem. So it's very beautiful, and this, you know, we have a lot of projects in my family, and right now I have gathered my whole family to start a project to make a path up towards the house, and it's been just weeds all over the place, and it's very messy. You can see here, this is the way it's been for the last 20 years or so. So now we try to remove this, and we will then put like gravel on top here. It's going to look very nice. But we have some work left to do. Let's move on to this area. I have here 4 garden beds. They are new this year because it's been like for 2 years or so. I have had one big area for like planting cabbage and corn and beans, etc. But I wanted to come back to the beds because it's easier for me to grow in beds. So I have here, it's an onion, a traditional Swedish onion. We call it potato onion. It's a shallot with traditions in Sweden. It keeps very well if you store it. Winter carrots, storable carrots. We have 2 types of carrots that we grow in Sweden. It's the early varieties and the late varieties. And late varieties can be stored all winter long, for example in my clamp. Leek and some onion. More winter carrots. And then we have fava beans and broad beans. This is a perennial flower. I don't know what to call it in English, I'm sorry, but it's very good for the bees, and we do have a beehive, so I want to have the bees in here in the garden, so I sort of put this here to tell them, come here. Among my fence with old bicycles, I have the sweet peas. So I'm going to put some extra support for them, since this is not very stable after 10 years. But I hope it's going to look very pretty. I specifically like this view from where you are standing, because I then spot my trees, small trees that are blooming right now. I have the pear and the honeyberries and peaches and the cherry trees, etc. So I really like this view. This area, it doesn't look much right now, and this is actually the first time in a couple of years that I grow potatoes in such a big area in my vegetable garden. I have planted like 150 or 180, don't remember, sets in the garden, and it will give me approximately 1 kilo of fresh potatoes from each set. So it will be a few hundred kilos of potatoes. And a difference in my family this year is that our kids, they are big enough to say, we will not eat that kind of food. And when the kids were quite small, I could like fool them. So, oh, it's mashed potatoes, I could say, and it was just a tiny bit of potato in that mashed potatoes, and it could be like a parsnip or beets in it, and the kids would eat it because I said it is mashed potatoes. But now they spot if it's something else in it, and they will say, we won't eat it. So for this year I grow plenty of potatoes. I really don't like it because I don't like how this area will turn. It's just a green mess, to be honest with you. No flowers and no high things, etc. So, but it's practical, and we will have a lot of food. Here you can see the honeyberries. I spotted some fruit, some berries. So these are the new berries, and honeyberries are very, very early. The earliest variety I have is Anja, and she will give harvest already in June. Some years, if it's been like a very warm spring, we can harvest already in May. Lots of flowers this year at the cherry tree and also the peach tree, and I am so happy that the trees did not flower earlier in spring, because what happened the last couple of springs was that it flowered and it was like too early. So when frost came, everything died, the small fruit and also the flowers. But this year it's like late, so the bees are very busy, and I hope we will see some fruit. This is also very dear to me, the arches that I have created with apple trees and pear trees. I visited a public garden, Mandelmans, in south of Sweden, and they are really, really good with the trees, and I got so inspired. I have been nearly afraid of planting trees because you have to think of so many things. So I asked them how do you treat the trees, and how do you think about planting trees? And they were like, just plant a tree and see what happens. What? Okay. So I got home and I bought some trees, and I have had some fruit from this. So this is a learning project, how to prune them and everything. It's great fun actually, and it's going to look so nice. I have several of them. Well, my friends, since last time we were here, I have begun to dig up some chive, and that is because I grow asparagus around this area in the vegetable garden. But what I have seen last couple of years is that asparagus does not thrive. It could grow better. So I guess that this wonderful chive, like compete with the asparagus. So I am going to dig it away and place it somewhere else. At this side first, so let's see how that works. It's like a miracle when the asparagus turns up, isn't it? This area is surrounded by, I think it's 5 varieties of asparagus, and it's actually very good to have different varieties of nearly all kinds of vegetables that you grow, because they always turn up and they are ready to harvest in different times. So if you only grow like one variety of, let's say, carrots, you will have that type of carrot ready in a very short time. So you have to eat that specific variety. But now some variety of asparagus turns up, and then a couple of weeks later some other variety turns up, and it's really, really good. This one is a Rambo. And the earliest variety that I have is Lim over here. It's not that thick as Rambo and others, but it's very early. So we have harvested a few weeks maybe. I have started to mulch my garden with grass clippings. I get it from my neighbor. And this is a preparation for my beans. So I'm going to grow the really tall varieties here and then cover the space between the tall varieties with lower varieties. So I have started like kidney beans and other favorites. So this area is going to be peas and beans. One thing that I'm not that satisfied with is this bed over here. Is the spinach. And I mean, we are now in end of May, and this spinach should be like twice as big at least, and in another year I would have probably harvested it and put it in the freezer already, but it's not ready, and it started to flower, so but then I am very happy for like other places. And then we move on to this area. This is my straw bale garden. And it's the first time I do a straw bale garden. I'm very excited about it. I have had a plan. I have been watering really much for like 3 or 4 days, combined with heavy rain. And then I have watered with chicken manure water for 10 days. And tomorrow I'll be ready to plant this. Don't know if I will do it just tomorrow, but maybe in a few days when it's like a bit warmer. Hotbed, my pride, and here you can spot the leaves of the spinach, and this is what I expected from that other bed as well. If I should mention some of my favorites in this bed, I would definitely say this one is a Chinese broccoli, Kailan. It's not a very usual vegetable, unfortunately, but you simply cut the stem off and you can eat the stem. It's like an asparagus, and I fry it with the leaves and the flower buds and the stem. It's super, super tasty. I love it. So that's my favorite. And I also have had lots of radishes. My kids love radishes, so I really like to grow that. But I mean, we have had lots and lots of pak choi as well. It's my husband's favorite, the purple pak choi. And I fry this as well in some olive oil. It's super tender and super tasty. Today I weeded this spot. It's a bed covered with grass clippings, and this shows actually grass clippings from last year. Leaves, and before that I covered with some wool. This is what's left of the wool, and this is how the soil looks like underneath. I do have some weeds in here, some like perennial weeds, but I manage that. It doesn't bother the plantings. I think I will grow corn in here. It's a very, very good spot in the garden to grow the heat-loving vegetables, because we have sun all day, and it's a bit shelter from the stone wall and also the fence. More potatoes, Jerusalem artichokes, and I'm going to go for sunflowers behind that. And I don't know if you remember, I made a winter sowing, and I did a live stream at the same time. And this is the result. This is the spinach from a winter sowed raised bed in Sweden. And as you can see, this is not like stressed. It's starting to show signs of flowering. The stems are quite tall, etc. But this food is, I mean, this is amazing. This is the way you should garden and grow spinach in Sweden and other climates where it's quite cold. You know, check the size of the leaves. So right now we eat spinach nearly every day. We eat spinach with pasta and with rice, and only spinach, and we make soup, and we have the fried spinach, and we have the boiled spinach, and we have the fresh spinach, and we have all kinds of spinach. Well, let's move on to the raised bed flower garden. It's not much to show really, but it's well, this is what we call in Sweden, we call them pallet collars, pallkragar, and it's so popular to grow in pallet collars in Sweden. Nearly everyone who starts a vegetable garden, who want to start a vegetable garden quite quick, they go for pallet collars. It's really tricky, I think, to grow in pallet collars if you compare to grow in big beds in the ground. And that is simply because the pallet collars or other types of raised beds, they dry out here in the space between the soil and the wood, the frame. And it's tricky to water enough and to fertilize enough so that plants grow in a good way. But this garden, I set it up simply to show people how they could garden in a good way. So what I did a couple of weeks ago, simply to dig out the soil on top, and I put lots of compost and horse manure underneath, and then put back the soil on top. So you have to fertilize a lot in beds like this. In this area I grow the summer flowers, and it's like nearly one type of flower for each box. Cornflowers and zinnias and aster, sunflowers. Do you want to see some greenhouses as well? I am a bit disappointed at this place, but you know, I built this greenhouse last summer as a dream project, and it really is, but my expectations were that I should fill this area with, you know, lots and lots of sowings, and things will germinate and they will look so, well, healthy and nice. But the truth is that this place is very cold. So I am spoiled with the two polytunnels. They keep the heat better early in the season, and I could not start that early as I expected in this greenhouse. You may know I did some sowings of winter sowings of summer flowers, and I had them outside, and then I moved them inside this little greenhouse to start them up. But it just didn't work because it was very cold. It was warm in the days, or warmer than in the nighttime, and in the nighttime it was just freezing cold, so I lost a whole lot of sowings in my experimenting with a new space. But right now it's just enough heat, so I have a lot of snapdragons and some cabbage and lettuce and tomatoes. These tomatoes are probably going to grow in the straw bale garden. And some cuttings, I have some tulips, and I happened to, that thing happens to you when you garden. I happened to buy some plants and I am so much in love with peonies. And now when I have time in another way than when I garden with, very small kids, I simply have time to prepare a space for another bed with only the peonies. So I have bought some peonies. I have some more in another part of the garden. I don't know why I feel like I have to excuse myself. No, I will not excuse. I love peonies. I buy peonies and I grow peonies and I love it. Well, I have to show you. There are so many tulips from my garden right now, and I have enjoyed so much to grow the tulips and to explore them and to find out how it's like to grow tulips. So my plan was to grow like many. I think I planted like 1,000 bulbs last fall. And I want to grow them because I want to learn how to make like bouquets and how to use them and enjoy them indoors. But now we have ended up with like 5 bouquets of tulips at my dinner table. And my husband said, Sara, I can't really see the kids behind the flowers. So now I have started to bring them out here in the greenhouse. I enjoy them so much. Don't ask me what kind of varieties I grow because I don't know it, but this one is really big. Check it out. I think they are just amazing. And I feel such, it's pure joy to go out in the garden and to pick the tulips and to watch them. It was worth every crowner that I spent on the tulips and all the work to dig the bulbs down. It was I'm going to grow so many more tulips, and also the narcissus this year. Now let's move to the north polytunnel. This polytunnel is actually so messy, and it was so messy when I started the season, so I decided that I will not show anyone how it looks like, but I changed my mind and I cleaned up a bit because it really shows in a good way what is possible to grow in north parts of a garden where it's kind of shady. So I have a huge tree on this side, and the house covers the sun in like first part of the day, so it's I think it's almost in late afternoon and evenings that we have some sun in here, but it's the temperature is lovely, and it is actually, and I knew this since many years behind, that it's easier to start some plants in here than it is in the sunny polytunnel. Basically, I think it's because the temperatures are more even, so it's not like burning hot in daytime and then freezing cold in nighttime. It's somewhere in between in this shady place. All right, so I grow potatoes, early variety, to harvest in, let's say from June. In Sweden, we celebrate midsummer in June, and everyone wants to grow potatoes that are ready to harvest for midsummer. You want to have your own potatoes. I grow the Chinese cabbage in here. So this one is my favorite. It is Natsuki. The leaves are very tender, and it's a compact plant that you can actually harvest already when the heart is very small. And this one is another variety called Mishihili. I have tried growing it in fall, not very good result, but then I saw some of my garden friends who grew it and had just a really nice cabbage heart. So I decided to go for it for another try. But now I see here that it's going to flower, and then it's no use, unfortunately. And this is a problem when you grow Chinese cabbage in Sweden in this time of year, when the daylight increases and it's going to be very warm in daytime, etc. The cabbage want to flower. So that's why I prefer this Natsuki. It's a very good variety to grow in my climate, because it grows very fast and you can harvest the hearts when they are really, really small. More potatoes and pak choi. I water here nearly every day just to get these perfect pak choi plants. We are actually going to film for another project in the garden tomorrow. So I wanted to be able to show some really good plants. Don't they look just perfect with this stem? They actually grow in manure from our, oh my God, what do you call those animals in English? Marsvin, guinea pigs, right? So I have asked my kids to empty the manure from the guinea pigs in here. So I grow the pak choi in the guinea pigs manure. And lots of people who grow for the very first time, they don't know that they can actually use manure from your small animals like indoors. So I really want to tell that it's possible. Use it, don't throw it away. This is my little paradise, and this is the polytunnel that I couldn't show you the outside of in last vlog because it was raining so horrible, but this is how it looks like, and it's 5 meters the width, and it's 9 meters tall, and I have doors in both sides, and that is very important. So in hotter days you have to keep the air moving around so it's not too hot in here, because if it's too hot it's not possible for the vegetables to be pollinated in a good way. The insects don't like it when it's too hot. And that is actually easier to fix with a bigger polytunnel or a bigger greenhouse. If you have a very, very small greenhouse, it's easier, it's more likely that it's going to be like too hot. And this is how it looks now. I think it's like 3 weeks, 2 weeks maybe, since we were here last time. Must be 3 weeks. But lots of things happened. I have started to move around things. So this is a good place to keep sowings. I have lots of like cucumbers and melons and squash and those kind of things I want to germinate in a warm place. And since I have this garden, it's quite big, and I also have another garden that I grow vegetables, I need a big space to keep sowings. I have to produce many plants, so I don't manage to have them inside our house. I have to have them here. So that's why I prefer to start like cucumbers, etc. a bit later in the season, but start them outside in my greenhouse. So I have summer flowers, I have some tomatoes in here. Also, I have started to plant some tomatoes also. This is a variety, it's called Sun Gold, and it's supposed to be like the sweetest tomato in the world or something like that. And the reason why I planted it here is basically because I have 4 kids and I grow with them in mind pretty much all the time. So I have planted the blueberries so they can reach them easily from this path. And then I have planted 2 tomatoes so they can easily reach the sweet tomatoes as well. So that's very important for me. And as you can see here, we are only in May, but there are blueberries on the bushes. So the pollination have been great. And out in the open, in the main kitchen garden, my blueberry bushes, they have not even started to flower. So I expect we can pick the blueberries in mid-June maybe, or at least by Swedish midsummer. Radishes and more cucumber things and soya beans. I grew lots of soya beans. It's really a favorite among some of the kids. Beans and flowers. And then the cabbage with pointed head, more flowers. And my pride, the Chinese cabbage. They look really amazing. And now I harvest the outer leaves. I fry the leaves nearly every day for lunch, etc. So I simply use this part instead of like potatoes and rice and pasta. So we eat a lot of leaves at the moment. Some people ask me why I grow like things. I think someone mentioned the dill. Why do you grow like dill in here and also in the open, in the main kitchen garden? Why do you have it in different places? And the answer is that it grows in different ways in different places. So when it's like this small, it's like only germinated out in the open, I can have dill harvested, ready for harvest in the polytunnel. So I simply sow things in different places to have food for a very long time. And it's a super way to do it, I think. In here I have some broccoli, and it is starting to form a tiny broccoli head. Usually I can harvest broccoli in Sweden in my greenhouse in the beginning of June, maybe a bit later this year, since we have had a very cool spring. Lettuce and some orac, summer flowers, more lettuce, dill. Someone ate my aster. Don't know who. In my garden it's very important to have lots of plants, and that's not only for me like to eat, but it's important for me to have plants to replace the damaged plants with. Here's another one, and I guess that much must be like slugs, because slugs eat the green parts. So I will go out here tonight to try to catch it. And then of course I have lots of asters to fill up with. So the dill is just perfect now. I use it for like pesto and as a vegetable at my sandwiches and in salad bowls, and I made a sauce for our fish burgers. I have some sowings in here too, summer flowers. I really like to sow things like this way, broadcast sowings. Fennel. I never learn, do I? I had too much fennel last year. I tried to give it away, but finally a friend said, "No, Sara, we have pretty much of fennel you brought me last time." So it's like, grew too much. But they germinated so well, you know. Zinnias. It's really satisfying to see a tray like this that germinated well. Makes me very happy. Basil. I love to start a few trays with basil every now and then, all summer long, because it's very easy to use in cooking. I also freeze a lot of basil. I mix it with some olive oil then, and I just put it so, you know, as a thin cake or something. and I put it in the freezer. The cabbage, it is actually ready to harvest, but I will wait until tomorrow because we are going to film some in the garden. And the potty, of course, very useful. And I did some thing I have never done before. I bought some sweet potato plants. I have never grown sweet potatoes before, and I am super excited. I got plants from Erato Orange. So I have the orange plants, and I also have the violet on the other side of the greenhouse. And it's excited to try something new. I read that it can be grown upright, but also can be spread out on the ground, and that the sweet potatoes will produce even more potatoes if it grows on the ground. So I choose a spot where they can spread out. In this bed, for example, where I grow the lilies. So when the lilies are done, I can have the sweet potato leaves all over the place without it disturbing me. Well, dear friends, I think you have seen most part of it. What is new for this year is also that I have created a bench for myself. It's kind of silly, but I have managed to sit on the ground and everything for years and years, and I have managed to produce so much food, planting on the ground, etc., etc. But my God, it's very, very comfortable to stand up and do this. So it's been great for me to have only a small place like this, and I can stand here in the evening sun, and the kids, they jump on their thing and just play around, and I can be here among them, not being in the greenhouse or sitting on the floor or the ground. So I have really enjoyed this this place, surrounded by my compost heaps as well. I really do hope that you have places in your own garden where you can feel satisfied and happy. And I will see you next time again in June when things have like nearly exploded in my garden, I hope. Hold your thumbs, as we say in Sweden. Thank you for watching, and see you soon again. Bye bye.